Dragon Riders, Kaze no Kaeru, by Night Dragon Zero. Night Slice's perspective. I ran as fast as I could, seeking out the source of the voice. I unclipped a Pokeball from my belt and hit the release button, not knowing who it was, but not having time to check. "Come on!" I yelled, hoping that he'd follow. "Right away!" I heard Riptide respond. The Golduck caught up and kept pace with me as I pushed my way through the forest. Finally, I arrived on the scene. Two men had guns pointed at a teenage girl, pinned against a tree, clearly with the intent of robbing her, or worse. "Picking on little girls. How noble," I said, stepping into their view. I did so, arms crossed, sunglasses gleaming in the sunlight. "Who do you think you are?" one of the thieves snarled, aiming his pistol at me. Reacting on instinct, I charged, drawing my sword and rolling forward. I heard the bang of the gun as the shot went over my body. I slashed, causing the two thieves to back away. Placing my body between them and the girl, I stood on a fighting stance. "Stay down," I whispered to her. The terrified girl was close to tears, but nodded. Turning my attention back to my enemy, I realized my attack had partially cut open the jacket of one of them. Beneath it, with a black uniform, with the letter R on it. "Team Rocket," I growled. They were the ones who kidnapped Chris, my half-sister, so to say, the ones who caused me the grief. Now I had a chance to make them pay. "Get him!" one of the agents ordered. Both took out Pokeballs and released a Muck and an Arbok. The Pokemon I didn't want to harm. It was no fault of theirs who their masters were. However, they were still in my way. "Riptide!" I called. The Golduck jumped out from the bushes and launched his psychic attack, taking the two poison types down. "Nice work, my friend. Now let's see how tough you are when you aren't hiding behind your Pokemon," I said fiercely, pointing the sword at them. "Shoot him! Now!" And contrary to what they expected me to do, I charged right at them, spinning the sword. Their shots bounced and clanged off the shining blade, not even one being able to touch me. The first one died relatively quickly, having his throat slit open the moment I reached him. Seeing his comrade fall, the second man readjusted his aim and pulled the trigger. However, his weapon was empty. "Not so confident now, are we?" I taunted, approaching him. Panicking, he fumbled for another clip, which I kicked out of his hand. "Is that fear you're feeling, scumbag?" I punched his face several times and kicked him down. He was screaming as I stamped my foot down against his chest, accompanied by the loud crack of his ribs. "Good. Feel it in hell!" I thrust my sword down straight into his heart. The doomed man let out a garbled scream as he began bleeding at the mouth, limbs fraying about wildly. There was a distinct pleasure in watching his blood run until he stopped struggling and lay dead. All the Pokemon had stopped fighting and were watching me. I pointed my blood-stained sword at the two poison-type Pokemon. "You have a choice. Leave now, or die like him." They didn't need to be told twice, scampering off into the forest as fast as they could. Riptide silently stood, looking up at me. "Poor, simple-minded creatures," I muttered. "How I envy you." I knew the young girl was still there, as I tore one of Fallen Rocket's shirts to wipe my sword clean. "Sorry you had to witness that," I said, without looking up. "You should get out of here. It's not safe." "Thank you," she finally gathered up the courage to say. "Don't bother thanking me," I growled, wanting to avoid this conversation. "Come on, Riptide, let's get going." I sheathed my sword and begun to walk away with Riptide, but the girl came running after us. "My name's Hazuki," she said. "Who are you?" "A warrior," I replied, again without turning back. "One on a quest." "Can't you at least tell me your name?" "My name?" I stopped. I hadn't really thought about that, for that matter. I couldn't exactly tell her my name was Night Slice. "Yorukiru." That sounded believable, at least. "My name is Yorukiru." Firestorm's perspective. "Storm, are you all right?" Dracia asked. "If I were, do you think I'd be sitting in this room sulking?" I yelled back. "Storm?" I was about to go back to leaning on the window ledge and staring out when she promptly slapped my face with her tail. "Ow! What was that for?" I growled. "For acting like a complete asshole at the worst f***ing time!" I was sincerely shocked, never hearing her use the four-letter word before. "Jade's in a worse situation than you, and I don't think he's fallen into depression," she continued, before I had the chance to say anything else. "They suspect you may be turning into a human, and I realize you're upset about that, but hoping that it'll go away won't make it go away at all. You know, the two of you are the same. You hide your true feelings within yourselves and don't know how to ask for help until it reaches a point where it completely cracks you up. And... She turned away and began making a sniffing sound. Dracia didn't resist me as I walked up to wipe away her tears. It's her personality that she doesn't like seeing the people she cares about upset or hurt, and I hadn't been considering that until now. Hey, don't cry, I comforted. I'm sorry. Stress is really getting to me. Night Slice disappears, then Chris, and now this morphing thing with Jade and myself. Plus, we still have Alagard, Team Rocket, and the whole Ancient Dragon saga. I'm sorry too, she said softly. You better get some rest. I'll check on Jade and his uncle. With that, she left, the door quietly shutting behind her. I was alone, having been given the whole bedroom to myself. Not used to the comfort of the bed, I lay down on the carpeted floor, carefully folding my flaming tail away and glancing up at the stars. My mind kept drifting back to the conversation from earlier. I was a Pokemon that had been through things like experimental testing, abusings, and even having my memories wiped like a computer. But then Chris, my former Team Rocket tormentor, had turned over a new leaf and we became friends. That whole time, I constantly shoved my past sufferings behind me. I normally stood in the background and let Chris run the show, playing a somewhat guardian's role towards her, and later on, becoming a sort of mentor to my younger companion, Night Slice. Not like he'd openly admit that, but the bond was there. Now they were missing, and everyone suddenly seemed to be looking up to me to take command, including Jade himself. It is you who must decide, and choose the path that will benefit not only you, but your companions as well. Their fate lies in your hands. I started, jumping up. That voice had not been my own. I realized that I was somewhere else, too. No longer in the room, but instead lying on an empty beach. Behind it, an open grassy field extended as far as my eye could see. Above me, the stars of the night sky glittered as brightly as ever. Something else felt wrong. I lifted my right claw and cried out in shock when I saw a human hand in its place. It was covered with a glove that exposed the back of the palm and the fingertips. I ran myself down and found I was dressed in a white t-shirt, blue jeans, and a pair of sports shoes. A black jacket also was over the shirt. Was this a dream? Had I fallen asleep? However, it seemed too real to be one. As if to answer my question, the waves came up, covering my ankles. The seawater felt cold. Dream? Reality? Vision? Memory? I dropped to my knees in confusion. This is all those things, and yet neither of them. I looked up. That was the same voice speaking directly in my mind. "Who are you?" I asked aloud. For a terribly long moment, only the sounds of the wind greeted me. Then the voice finally spoke again. "I am Zion." Night Slice's perspective. "I thought I told you to stop following me over an hour ago," I said grouchily. "But then I said that I at least wanted to try to repay you for saving my life," Hazuki insisted. "And you call that by getting lost?" My 3 companion Pokemon, who I had let walk out with me, were visibly annoyed but remained silent. "But, look kid," I spun round and jabbed my finger at her shoulder. "You don't want to be hanging out with me. I'm not the best of society, and I'm bad news too. I fight a lot of battles worse and more violent than the one just now. So just go away and don't get yourself into more trouble, 'cause it's not every day that someone's gonna decide to play hero for you." "Who are you calling a kid?" she protested. "You're not much older than me." "You have no idea," I said coldly, walking off. "The way you attacked those rockets just now, it was more out of anger than for the sake of helping me, wasn't it?" I decided to ignore her and kept walking on. "My parents died because of Team Rocket too," she suddenly blurted out. "I ran away, and I don't have anywhere." She broke down and started weeping miserably. I desperately wanted to start running. I didn't want to hear anything else. At least it was nighttime, and there wasn't any other people walking along the road to hear that, but those words stirred up my emotions. What would Chris do if she were here instead of me? I asked myself. I already knew the answer, but I had once again let my anger cloud my judgment. I tapped Riptide on the shoulder, tapping my forehead and jerking my head back towards her, indicating that I wanted the telepathically enhanced duck to probe her and see if she was telling the truth. He closed his eyes and apparently did so. Riptide quickly snapped out of his trance and nodded to me, with a sad look in his eyes, instantly making me feel guilty about having made him do that. Slowly I approached the girl. How old was she? 14, that's right, she told me. Hazuki was slim-built and very fair-skinned, almost a snowy white. Her light blue hair and eyes seemed to add on to the winter effect, in addition to the fact that she was dressed in a matching long-sleeve shirt and white jeans. She wasn't very tall, even my human form being a head and neck taller than her. I guess it would be said that she was beautiful by human standards. Beautiful, but also sad, in great pain. "I'm sorry," I said softly, kneeling beside her and offering my hand. "They took my sister away from me. That's why I'm going to find her, and I don't want people like you to suffer in the process." She'd stopped crying now, but was still sniffling and wiped her face on her sleeve. "Come on, get up." I pointed to the light of the town further along the path. "We can spend the night in the town up ahead, and in the morning I can refer you to the police department there. They'll help out." "No," she said firmly. "I want to go with you." "I'm leaving tomorrow for Johto," I said, standing up. "But I'll be going in some rough places, following my own path. It'll be too dangerous for you." I fingered the fox head-shaped pendant I'd received from Euphoria. "I can handle it. Please, I want to help you too," she begged. "Do you have any Pokemon?" I asked. "No," I sighed. "But I can catch one. Please give me a chance." At this, my 3 Pokemon companions sighed as well. "Fine, you can follow me to town, but I don't have the cash to spare for an extra train ticket." As if having $300 wasn't enough, but not like I would tell her that. I figured it was my responsibility to at least get her to town. After that, I'd still be able to get rid of her, but in a nice way instead. It was for her own good. "I'll find some way. Just you wait and see, Yokiruke-san," Hazuki cheered, breaking into a smile. "You know something? Your optimism scares me, Hazuki."